My name is Ola, or Mary. I am Nigerian, 75 years old, and the founder and president of We Care Foundation worldwide. Looking at me today, many may wish to be in my place. They see success, dignity, and strength. But few truly understand the journey that brought me here, the pain, the loss, the resilience that shaped me into the woman I am today. This is my story, a story of hope carved from despair, of a girl who once had everything, only to lose it all in the blink of an eye. It is a story of survival, of holding on when the world around me crumbled, of finding light even in the darkest of nights. At just 16 years old, I believed my future was limitless. I excelled in school and had just won a beauty contest in Kaduna, the city where I was born and raised. I carried myself with confidence, knowing I was both intelligent and admired. To my parents and friends, I was Marygold, a name that reflected the beauty and promise I carried from childhood. I never imagined that, in just days, my world would be reduced to ashes. One moment, I was a beauty queen, celebrated and adored. The next, I was running for my life. The year 1966 shattered everything I knew. A group of young Federal Army officers, seeking political change, assassinated top political figures in my country. Because officers from my side were more in number among the men behind the coup, my entire tribe was blamed. In an instant, everything changed. The people who once called us neighbors now saw us as enemies. Those who had laughed with us, shared meals, and walked beside us in schools and marketplaces looked at us with hatred in their eyes. Their voices, once warm, turned to threats. Their hands, once extended in friendship, now gripped machetes, guns, and fire. The air smelled of burning homes, of lives destroyed in an instant. Families were torn apart. Fathers and brothers slaughtered. Women and children hunted down like animals. Harming us became a sport. The streets ran red with blood. The city that had once crowned me its most beautiful girl now wanted me dead. We had no choice but to flee, to abandon everything we had ever known. My parents and others from my tribe made what they believed was the safest decision. We returned to our hometown in the eastern part of the country, clinging to the hope that among our own we would find safety. They were wrong. The attacks did not stop. The whispers of fear grew into cries of terror, and soon, the streets we once walked with ease became battlegrounds soaked in blood. When it became clear that the goal of the aggrieved tribes had shifted from revenge to the complete annihilation of my people, we realized there was no escape. We had no choice but to defend ourselves. It was no longer just violence. It was no longer just survival. It had become a full-blown war between people who had once shared meals, laughter, and dreams. Brothers turned against brothers. Sisters against sisters. Friends against friends. What once felt like home had turned into a war zone, and the faces we had known as friends, neighbors, and even extended family now bore expressions of hatred we could not recognize. The bonds of unity had been shattered, and in their place stood the harsh reality of war, one we never sought but could no longer avoid. We fought bravely, clinging to prayers and hope, trying to push back the advancing forces. But how could one tribe, without ammunition, stand against Federal Army armed with a vast military and an endless supply of weapons? We were outnumbered, outgunned, and overwhelmed at every turn. Every battle was a desperate struggle, every loss a painful reminder that survival itself was slipping through our fingers. Fear seeped into our bones as the echoes of war drew closer each day. The inevitable happened. Towns began to fall. Chaos consumed us. People scattered like leaves in the wind. For months, we hid in the forests. Scarcity of food and other supplies became a daily reality. Hunger clawed at our stomachs, and sickness spread like wildfire. Many died, not from bullets or bombs, but from sheer deprivation. Their bodies too weak to fight back, they withered away before our eyes, their voices fading into silence. We could do nothing but watch, powerless, as our loved ones slipped away. When my town was captured by the federal soldiers, we were forced to cohabit with them. We knew that in war, soldiers always go for what they consider as spoils, women and property. One day, they came for me. My father fought with everything he had to protect me, his only child. But they were stronger. Right before my eyes, they shot him in the head. I heard his final cry before he crumpled to the ground, his body sprawling lifelessly, the most horrifying moment of my life. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, but rough hands dragged me away. My mother's screams echoed through the burning streets, calling my name as I was torn from her grasp. She fought, clawed, begged, but it was useless. I was taken. Days later, I learned the bitter truth. My mother, the strongest woman I knew, had stayed behind, waiting, believing that somehow I would return to her. But war has no mercy. Looters moved like vultures, scavenging through the ruins left behind by fighter planes. Knowing my father was gone, they came to our house. My mother, fearless even in the face of death, refused to be silent. She confronted them, shouting, demanding that they leave. But war does not differentiate between enemies and opportunists. One of them raised a gun and fired. Just like that, my mother was gone too, counted among the war's many dead, though she had never stepped onto the battlefield. I was now alone. Truly alone. And I was a captive, held by a soldier from the federal side, the side that despised us. At first, I hated him. He was part of the force that had destroyed my home. But with no other choice, I surrendered. I became his servant, his possession, his tool for pleasure. He took me with him everywhere he was stationed. I witnessed gunfire and war. Amidst it all, I bore his child, a beautiful boy who, against all odds, carried the likeness of my father. He became the only light in my dark world. But it felt as if love was never meant for me again. When the war ended, his people refused to let him marry me. Our religion, our tribe, our blood, everything about us was wrong in their eyes. And so, he did what was expected of him. He threw us out. My son and I became nothing more than burdens, cast into the streets like discarded memories. Homeless, hopeless, forgotten. I had to return to Kaduna, where I was raised and had once reigned as a beauty queen, now hiding my face in shame. It was the only place I knew. I wandered for years, searching for a home that no longer existed. Until fate intervened. One day, I met a man, my mentor's husband. Through him, I found my mentor, the woman who had once guided me through my schooling and beauty contests before the war tore everything apart. Though she was from one of the tribes that despised mine, she saw my pain and struggle. Instead of turning away, she wept with me and reached out her hand. With her help, I completed my secondary education and earned a UNICEF scholarship to study in America. I was determined to succeed. I worked hard in my studies, pushing through sleepless nights and moments of doubt. Piece by piece, I rebuilt myself and found the strength I had lost. Though it was not easy, I fought to free myself from the burdens of my past. Opportunities began to open. I discovered a passion for advocacy, speaking out for women and children affected by violence and war. My voice, once silenced by fear, now carried strength and purpose. I shared my story, not just as a victim, but as a testament to resilience and hope. And then, love found me again, not in war, not in captivity, but in kindness. My mentor's younger brother saw me for who I was, not for where I came from. He loved me, truly and fully. Together, we built another home. My son thrived, growing into a bright and compassionate young man. He asked about his father, and I told him the truth, without anger, without bitterness, but with the understanding that I had chosen to move forward. Years passed, and one day, I received an unexpected message. The soldier who had once captured me, my son's father, was looking for me. He wanted to meet his son, our child. I stood at the crossroads of my past and future, knowing that whatever I chose would shape not just my life, but my son's. The scars of war never truly fade, but healing is found in the choices we make today. With my husband's support, I decided to meet him. The encounter was tense, yet cathartic. He was filled with regret, seeking forgiveness for the pain he had caused me. I looked at him, my former tormentor. And for the first time, I saw a human being, not a monster. I forgave him. Not for his sake, but for mine and my son's. In forgiving him, I freed myself from the shackles of hatred and anger. With my humble husband by my side, I gathered the courage to return to my village for the first time in years. I stood before the ruins of my father's compound and wept. My husband held me close. My children joined him. In their embrace, I felt love. Years later, I stood on a grand stage, accepting an award for my humanitarian work. As I gazed out at the sea of faces before me, my heart swelled with gratitude. I thought of the wars I had endured, the pain I had overcome, the struggles that shaped me, and the triumphs that defined me. I thought of my parents, my children, my mentor, my husband, all those who had lifted me up along the way. With tears in my eyes, I smiled. I had finally triumphed, not just in life, but into true beauty. Today, I am the president of We Care Foundation Worldwide, a humanitarian organization that partners with World Health Organization to visit countries to talk to people affected by wars and violence. If you are facing pain, loss, or hardship, let this story be a light for you. No matter how dark the night, the sun will rise again. You are stronger than you think, and your story is far from over. Thank you for watching.